All right, hello everybody. My name is Dakoba and welcome back to Lightyear Frontier. Today we are going to be focusing on ramping up our farming efficiency and starting to take a look at some of the automation features that we'll unlock later on in the game. Now we're right where we left off our last episode. We've expanded our farm fields just a bit and done some planting, but it's the same rainy day that we started with before, and the rain is a really nice help because that takes care of one of the major chores for us, which is watering our plants. See, the plants have multiple steps each day. We need to till the fields, we need to plant the seeds, we need to water them until they're grown, and then we need to harvest them. And the mech upgrades we got in our last episode take care of the tilling and the harvesting part of that. They greatly increase the efficiency with which we can process large areas of crops, but planting and watering are still a bit of a pain. And so if we want to, for example, till some ground here, we can go ahead and go into our mech, drop down our tiller, and then just start tilling, and this will create a huge amount of space for us to plant new crops. And so now we can go ahead and plant here, but planting is one of the things that we've started to see some slowdowns in. We still have a pretty decent planting speed by way of our seed shooter lock-on, but we can only plant 20 at a time, and we're getting to the point where we are processing hundreds and hundreds of crops. So 20 at a time is not as fast as it once was when we were only doing 50 to 100 crops. 20 at a time was quite quick. Now it takes a little bit more time and patience to get through it all. And so that's going to be the main emphasis of today's episode, is maximizing the other two sides of that, the watering and the planting, the things that we're still quite slow on. Now, some of that we can address pretty quickly. If we go into our mech depot, we have some mech upgrades that we can use to improve this. If we go take a look at our mod crafting, you can see that we have the where is it at? All right, sorry, if we go take a look at our parts crafting, you can see we have the Mark II tools, the irrigation hose Mark II and the seed shooter Mark II. Those take bronze parts and red crystals, which we're out of at the moment, but we should be able to gather those up and make those, and that'll let us further increase our water tank capacity to make it so we can water more of our crops at a time. We can also increase our lock-on targets for our seed shooter lock-on by doing that. So that is going to be our first task, is to gather up the materials we need for those mechs. And so we are going to switch over to our traveling loadout for our mech, because we are going to be traveling a bit further afield to gather up some of those materials. Now, our main goal while we're out is going to be looking for some red crystal, because that's the thing we can't get close to home, but we're also going to be picking up enough stuff to craft up some more bronze parts, because we're going to need quite a lot of those, not only for this, but for other things. Bronze is the first resource you need huge amounts of, and so even though we've been producing it for a while, we still haven't sort of met our overall demands and needs, and that is a challenge for us. All right, we've picked up 43 tin. That should be a pretty good start. And we'll keep an eye out for anything else of value, in particular any crops that we find are still valuable, especially honey bottle. It takes so long to grow that anything we can use to bolster our supply is welcome. So we'll keep an eye out for wild honey bottle as we traverse this plain. Looks like there's a couple of spots that we might be able to find some. There are tons of animals here that we can also use to get more honey bottle, although that's going to take a few more steps, and we'll look at animals, I think, in our next episode. I think that's the plan for next time. All right, I've made my way up here to this part of the map, this valley with the snow and ice. This is where you can find the red crystal and it is quite a ways from where we're at, but fortunately we don't need too much red crystal, so this trip might be all we need for the rest of the game. We'll go ahead and gather up as much as we can. There's a couple of large clusters down in the main part of the valley, and then if you come up here in the hill behind, you'll see a whole bunch more. We'll grab these up and then we'll teleport home and craft up these items in the morning. All right, it is day 16. Let's go ahead and see what we can do about crafting some of these upgrades before we get into harvesting and replanting, because that will make the rest of our chores today so much easier. So I let my furnaces run overnight. Hopefully we have a decent amount of copper or bronze here. Yep, that's looking okay. And keep our crafting going, and let's make out what we're gonna need. So we're gonna need a total of 6 bronze parts and 4 bronze electronics. We have 1, so we'll do bronze parts. We will craft up 6 of those. Oh my, we're out of polyberry oil. That's going to be tricky. All right, and then 4 bronze electronics. Got that one. Go ahead and cancel some of this honey bottle oil. Craft up some polyberry oil instead. We're going to need that. And we're about ready to make the oil presser Mark II, but for now we'll stick with this. All right, let's pop on over and see what we can do with these in terms of making these components. We want to make a irrigation hose Mark II and a seed shooter Mark II. And then we can switch over to, let's start with our loadout 1, our general purpose one, to equip those. And we can unequip our mods from our first one, equip it on the second one, and same with the seed shooter. And now we need the mods for those. So we're going to need another water tank capacity as well as lock-on targets. Now we can only craft one of those. I think for now, let's go ahead and do the lock-on targets. And then the water tank capacity, we will set a mission for. That's going to be some bronze electronics, but that shouldn't be too bad either. And so then we can go into our seed shooter and equip that lock-on targets. And that is going to be a nice help for us. Let's pop out here and see what we can harvest. Looks like we have a ton of wheat back here we can harvest. All right, I've harvested one of the fields, and now we can demonstrate why the upgrade we got is so valuable. We've got a bunch of zapper twig seeds here that we want to plant. And so now that we have those upgrades, we have an additional water tank capacity upgrade and a seed shooter lock-on capacity. Let's take a look at the seed shooter lock-on capacity upgrade. We can now do huge amounts of seeds very, very quickly. Just like that. Now, unfortunately, watering is still slow. It is going to be the hardest part of this job, and we've done quite a lot for it. By having the extra capacity, we should be able to do just a huge amount of fields. And we've also planted the pond pitchers around our farm, which have grown up now. They're fully grown, and we can start utilizing them to refill our water locally, which is great for getting these fields that are a little bit farther away from the water source we started near. And so, for example, we've used about 70 water there. We can pop over here and just refill that and then get back to watering. But watering is still a slow, tedious process, and unfortunately, there's not really anything for it. There is the Hydro Blast add-on. It's not one that I find useful because it uses a ton of water and is less accurate than I care to be. But it is an option. All right, now with those upgrades, I've finally finished taking care of our crops. Planting is much easier with the seed shooter lock-on add-on. I think that as long as we have that, we're not going to struggle with planting almost any size field quickly. The bigger challenge is going to be producing enough in the right amount of seeds, but we can do that. The bigger issue we run into is watering. We're more than halfway through the day just watering what we've already planted, and there's tons more room that I want to continue plowing and expanding. We just don't have the ability to keep up with watering. So what we need to do is send off our next milestone. If we take a look at that, we'll get the watering drone station, which is going to be huge. We'll also get the Mark III irrigation hose, which will give us additional spots for more water if we need it. So let's go ahead and see what we can send off in terms of milestones. We have 4 of them filled up already. Just need some iron frames, bronze frames, and a bunch of copper wire. All things we should be able to come up with. And then down here, looks like we can send, at least prep, another plum bloom delivery and another zapper twig. We'll be able to send off just straight away without doing anything else. Let's go craft up that iron frame and some more of the other items. Will need copper wire and such. So let's go. So I'm going to spend a few days working through these fields and sending off these milestones, because getting that drone watering station is really the next step up in terms of progression, and it's going to do a lot for us. So I want to make sure we get there. So I'm going to keep gathering up resources, processing the fields, and here in a couple days we'll come back and take a look when we're ready to take a look at that drone watering station. All right, well, as it happened, we actually had enough crops to send off that milestone on the same day. So we have tons and tons of new stuff to play with, but I want to see if we can get one of these drone watering stations up and running. Let's take a look at everything this milestone gave us, so we can see what all we want to work on. The watering drone station is obviously the big one. We have roads now, which will allow us to travel a lot more easily. Once we get them built, we can make concrete to support those. We have some mech upgrades, the color mixer, some tool upgrades, and a new transform mode, the Trailblazer mode. So we'll have to take a look at that probably in our next episode. But today I want to see what is it going to take for us to build one of these drone watering stations. These ones are going to be located here. So we're going to need 2 iron frames and an iron electronics, as well as some red crystals to build one of these. Let's see if we have the components for us. We're going to need 2 iron frames and an iron electronics. And is that everything we need? Yes, we can build one. Fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and build this one right here next to my pond pitcher plant. And I'll probably end up building several of these right here. Now, if we take a look at this, we can open it up and we can see that it requires fuel. It also has a water level. We can water this, or we can provide water to this by simply spraying water into it. And then the drone that sits on top of it will actually pull water from the tower. So you saw that it sort of jumps or rapidly decreased in power or in water level there. That was that drone filling up. And then what we can do is we can throw in some oil there. It looks like I will put in some chromase oil there. We'll actually pull 8 of that out for our own use. And it will go around and look for places that need watering within the farm area and water them. So it'll fly around to all the different places that we sort of missed watering and make sure they get watered. And then when it returns to its station at the end of the day, we will know that everything within the farm area has been watered. Now, this provides a big advantage for things within the farm area, but some of our fields are outside of the farm area. I tried to build most of them close enough that we would eventually be able to get there by expanding our farm, which we are actually in a position to do if we have the bronze for it. We should have the bronze for it. 4 frames and 2 electronics. Let's see if we have that. And then we can also look at building up another drone station or 2. We need 4 frames, 2, 3, 4, and 2 electronics. Would be fine. And we get doubled up on our frames, so we got 8 out of that. So boom, upgrade our farm field. And then we are actually in a position now to increase it again, which will more than double the size of the farm once we have some more iron components in place. But the farm now includes not quite all of this field, about half of this field. So all of these will be automatically watered, and we can put in some more fields all around here. This should include all of the ones over there. Let's see. Go ahead and make another mission for that. So we'll need 1 electronics and 2 more iron frames. Can we do that? 1 iron electronics and 2 iron frames. Then we should be in a great position to make another drone watering station. Now, these drone watering stations are pretty slow. They will not fully water everything we have, even with 2 of them. Let's go ahead and get this one filled up. Prime that one with honey bottle oil. And fill it with water. All right, let's go ahead and turn in for the night, and then we'll be able to watch our drones go to work in the morning and see how they handle the watering, see how much additional watering we can get done with them. And of course, it's a rainy day. We can't even see. All right. I'll just go ahead and harvest through this day and then jump ahead until we get to a non-rainy day, at which point we will take another look at this. All right, just for context, this large field I've already done a little bit of, but with the seed shooter upgrade is much, much faster to plant. All right. Good, my goodness. This is our third rainy day in a row. I mean, I guess we just keep going, right? Like, take advantage of it. It's a good problem to have or something. All right. It has been 3 days. We had 3 days of heavy rains, during which I made a ton of progress, though nothing really sort of standing out. I have been cycling crops, and we can see all 5 of our drones are out. That's right, about 3 more drone towers. I think 5 should be just about enough to fully water what we have planted here. One thing to note is that drones will only water crops if they are planted. You know, if there's something there that is ready for that would benefit from watering, so they won't water dry, just, you know, dry unused mounds. So that's something you kind of have to keep an eye out for. But other than that, should be good. And we have tons of other crops ready for harvesting. And so I'm going to go ahead and set about that. And I'm going to do that. And then we'll come back and see how, as the day progresses, how well the drones are keeping up with the task of watering. You know, we'll come back and see, like, 5 drones can do this many squares in a day approximately. All right, now our drones are hard at work, still watering. We're still in the morning, and they're making great progress. So 5 should be actually more than enough for these fields, I think. However, there is one thing to note, and that is that they stop at the boundary. So you can see that they have watered the fields on the left of this. They have not watered the fields on the right. So this is where we are going to have to water by hand until we are able to expand our boundaries one more time. And then all of these fields should be enclosed. And then it's also reasonable we may want to sort of reshape and restructure them a little bit so that they aren't quite as far away. So I'll go ahead and get these watered, and then we can take a look at what the drones have done out in front. All right, those are watered. Let's go take a look at what the drones have done. That's all the watering I have done today. I haven't done any other watering anywhere else. Looks like they have done a bit over here, but not very much. These are all within the boundary, so I wonder what that's about. This field hasn't been planted. I want to actually tear that down. This one also hasn't been planted. I think we can actually plant that now, though. I think that should be... We'll do polyberry here. Never have enough polyberry, and especially since we're using so much of it for oil now. It's good to have lots and lots of polyberry. So I'll just do a full planting here. And there come the drones. All right, so this hasn't been planted. That should probably be wheat. We need a nitrogenate crop there. And I don't have any zapper twig, or yeah, we'll do wheat there. So there we go. But these have all been watered. These have all been watered. Most of this has been watered. Everything that's been planted over here has been watered. There are some spots, so we're obviously not fully fully saturated on the water, but overall they are doing great, and we just hit, we just passed into noon. They're doing so they have probably done over half of the watering, and it is just noon, so by sunset they should be fine. We can see that they are starting to run lower on water, so we can go ahead and top those off. And they're also working through their fuel supply. It looks like we'll have to refill these probably once a day and refuel them once a day as well. So we're going to have to maintain a constant stream of fuel production for these guys, and make sure we don't use up too much of our own fuel there. But overall, I'm very pleased. Our drones should take care of watering for us, which is great news. And if we don't trip on our flagpole, then we can also help out with the watering. Just as we walk by, it doesn't hurt to throw down a little bit of water there. That saves them some time, so why not? In other good news, we actually have all the crops we need for our next milestone. We just need to make some of these supplementary items, bronze frames, copper wire, and iron frames, and that should give us our next milestone. So that is something that we can take a look at. Yeah, that's something we can take a look at next time. But overall, I think this is good. We've properly sort of upgraded and automated our farm. We're making a huge amount of progress. We're able to manage seeds. Although it seems like the bottleneck on farming now is seeds once again. So we may need to put down some more seed makers over here and spend some more time getting more bronze, because those are made from bronze components. But overall, I'm very, very pleased with how well this is all going, how quickly we're making progress, and so I think we're in a good place going forward. Like, look at all these seeds. It is wonderful. At these remaining lum blooms over here. Those drones will, I'm sure, rush in as soon as they see that. Not sure where they're at. Must be off doing their stuff somewhere else. Oh, they're back in that backfield, which we had planted, but they hadn't got around to watering yet. Cool. Well, good for them. So yeah, we're well into the afternoon, but the vast majority of our crops are watered. I mean, the biggest challenge I think we're running into here is that this is going to limit how soon we can go to bed if we rely on the drones, because I don't think they'll keep working after bed. That's something I can test here in a little bit and leave a note down in the description. But I think that as long as we are, not in bed, as long as we are active in the world, they should have no trouble completing all of the crops that we have, and potentially even a fair bit more, although we can always build more drone platforms if we need to as well. That's an easy enough task for us, and an easy solution to that problem. So I think that's where we're going to leave it for today. I'm going to focus on working through some of the upgrades we've got. There's a great deal with upgrading the mech that I simply haven't gotten around to yet. I've been so focused on the crops that there's quite a bit we can do with the mech that I want to look at. For example, we have an entire new set of mech parts made from bronze, and I think our next milestone, which we'll be sending off soon, will actually give us the 4 upgrade ones, which is going to be huge. That'll really let us get going. All right, I wanted to test real quick if the watering drones will water an area overnight. So what we're gonna do is I've gone ahead and set up the field plow here, and we're just gonna plow a field really fast. Before I do this, let me make sure that they have water and fuel. We can go ahead and top them off real quick. It's no big deal. And then we are going to plant some crops. Probably let's do some polyberry just in a new field right here. We'll just put down a real quick temporary field here, plant a bunch of polyberry in it, and then we'll sleep for 2 days really fast. One so we can see what they get done today. Because like now that I've started plowing, those drones are going to come out and start watering. So we know some of them are going to be watered today. Like there's nothing we can do about that, but we should be able to get the seeds planted and get in bed before they're all watered. And then we'll go to sleep a second night. And so if we come back and everything is fully watered, then we will know for sure, or everything's fully grown, then we'll know for sure that they sort of simulate out their full day of watering, even if we're not awake and doing stuff. And if there's still a bunch of seeds, then we'll know that that they don't. So let's go ahead and sleep twice real quick. And see what we get. Day 24. Pop out here. They appear to all be watered. Can't sleep before noon. Okay. All right. Well, I think we have our answer though. Like this field was definitely not all watered when we went to bed. So the drones simulated out a full day of watering, definitely, and they should be able to get that even if we go to sleep at noon tomorrow. Not sure why they don't let you sleep before noon, but that's okay. Tons and tons of crops ready to harvest. Oh, it's a good day. All right. All right, just to double check this, it is now noon. The plants are probably about half watered, maybe a little more. And what I'm doing is I'm going to refill the watering drone stations, make sure they're fully topped off, and then I'm going to turn in early. I also put down some sprouts, some new sprouts. So we'll see if the drones are able to come through and water, for example, the rest of these wheat seeds back here. You can see that they're about half watered right now, or not even, so mostly unwatered. But I also put down a whole bunch of sprouts back here. And so we'll be able to see just how much those drones are able to get to. I do think they have watered most of the stuff close to home, and there's not actually a whole lot left. Like most of the crops are ready to harvest. I haven't really picked any. We have a whole bunch back here that are good to go. And then we're gathering up materials for an expansion of our shed. You can see I put down some additional seed makers over here. And otherwise we're just going to keep things rolling. And hopefully have some good luck with some of these things growing. It's also possible we're just getting to the point where five watering drones simply can't keep up. I'm not too concerned about that today because so many of our crops are sort of ready to harvest and will be a lower priority, but we'll see what happens. So let's go ahead and turn in for the night. We know the drone stations are all topped up, but they still have probably, fully half a day of watering left to do. So let's see what we get if we go to bed early. All right, day 25 is here. And on day 25, we get all of those were watered. It looks like everything in this field was completely watered. It would appear that all of our wheat ended up getting watered. So those definitely got watered. How about our sprouts? Do they water sprouts? That's something else I was curious about. They do not water sprouts. The other thing I wanted to check was how much water and fuel did they use. They were pretty well topped off. They would have picked up a little bit on their way out. So let's see. So they are completely out of water and fuel. So I am guessing that is actually calculated correctly. That first night, there was still tons of fuel and water left in the tanks. So I wasn't really sure on whether they had drawn fuel or water, but now it's unquestionable. All right, well, that answers most of my basic questions about the drones, so hopefully that's been helpful. They do continue to water even while you're sleeping. They do continue to use water and fuel from their stations while you're sleeping. And 5 drones can do quite a lot. They did the entire farm last night of this size, so we may want to build some more if we continue putting down fields or continue to expand. We have at least one more milestone upgrade, which will almost double the size of our farm yet again. So lots of potential there. But look at these fields. They're so beautiful and they're all ready for harvest. It's a very exciting time. All right. All right, and I think that's where we are going to leave it for today. I'd like to thank you guys for spending a few minutes with me here in the world of Lightyear Frontier. I hope that you've enjoyed this episode and this discussion of how we can sort of optimize and automate our farming process. Leave a like if you have and subscribe if you'd like to see more. My name is Dakoba, and I hope you have an epic day. I will see you soon.